the webinar itself. So we're delighted today to welcome to speak on the subject of all about Peppol. We have André Hoddevik, who is the Secretary General of the OpenPeppol organization, and we have Tormod Tønnesen, who is supply chain team lead at Offshore Norway. So with no further ado, and to help explain all about Peppol and its application to the broadening offshore energy industry, I'm delighted to hand straight over to André. Over to you. Thank you very much for presenting today.
Thank you very much. And the ambition of the presentation all about Peppol is perhaps a bit too much in like 15 to 20 minutes, which I plan to use on this presentation. But I hope at least to give you an introduction to what Peppol are and where we are coming from, and then hopefully also why it's relevant for you. My name is André Hoddevik. I work out of Oslo as my daytime job is being head of department in the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management, where I have been responsible in different positions for the development of e-procurement and e-commerce in the public sector since 1999 actually. And I've been the Secretary General of OpenPeppol since 2012, and before that I was leading the Peppol project. So I have some years in background. Before joining public sector, I was also a consultant working for Norwegian oil and gas industry and utilities industry out of Stavanger, but then we are far back in time. So about Peppol and OpenPeppol, and these are two terms, and Peppol is what we do and our products. So this is about us integrating business processes by standardizing the way information is structured and exchanged, and Peppol is also the name of the network and the business interoperability specifications that we provide. And all of this is part of a rather comprehensive Peppol interoperability framework that I will show briefly afterwards, but which includes both legal agreements, governance, and compliance measures. OpenPeppol is who we are. So we are a not-for-profit, democratic, member-led international association developed under Belgian law, established under Belgian law in 2012. And that was a follow-up of a EU co-funded project that ran from 2008 to 2012. Which gathered consortium members from 18 of them from 17 and from 11 different countries, including the UK. And today our members, we come from both the public and private sectors, with membership increasing. And we have also extended our reach from Europe to being global. Today we have 18 countries with Peppol authorities. I will explain briefly what is in that term in a short while. We have OpenPeppol members in 40 different countries, close to 500 altogether, and then more than 600,000 end users or entities connected to the Peppol network. This is the distribution of the membership. So you'll see that there is quite a lot in Europe, and the darkest blue color here represents the countries with Peppol authorities. And the newest Peppol authority is Finland, that joined in July this year. And before that, Japan was the last Peppol authority. The first Peppol authority outside of Europe was Singapore back in 2019, followed by Australia and New Zealand in 2020. We work and have a role as a trusted advisor. We promote the adoption of electronic business exchange by governments and businesses in the pursuit both of trust and efficiencies. We have built up quite a lot of experience to support implementation of digital business processes. Main volumes today are on invoicing, but also ordering and other parts of the supply chain, as I will come briefly back to. We are a neutral non-profit organization, and so we increasingly also contribute to emerging international policies. We've been involved in introducing e-invoicing into the ongoing World Trade Organization negotiations. And we have been a number of times involved in the OECD Forum on Tax Administration, and also involved with the International Chambers of Commerce activities. I mentioned that we have some Peppol authorities. This is one category of Peppol members. Another I mentioned is end users, that are the buyers and sellers that send and receive the business documents. These are not required to be members of OpenPeppol to send and receive messages, but those that want to influence the development and content of the Peppol Interoperability framework, they are welcome to join as members. The service providers, they are the ones that enable business process interoperability between the end users through setting up access points and connecting their ordering and invoicing and other ERP type of solutions to the Peppol network, or also provide addressing and capability lookup services. So the mechanisms of the Peppol network itself. Peppol authorities, they drive the adoption of Peppol in a jurisdiction, and currently they are all government departments or agencies. They don't have to be government entities, but so far that is what we have. What we have. The Peppol Interoperability framework, I will not go into any level of detail on this, but just to explain that it's based on now more than 10 years of experience on what is needed for cross-sector and cross-border interoperability. And we have in the last few years made quite a significant update of the interoperability framework and the agreement framework, which is part of this, with support both from authorities and service providers worldwide. So this interoperability framework, it supports the business process interoperability for electronic exchange of business documents. And it's also aligned to the global interoperability framework. It's actually one of the sources to the global interoperability framework, which is brought together through work of European e-invoicing service providers, the OFS portal in the US-based, and other players. So the interoperability framework itself is about governance and about the architectural framework with the specifications of the components needed to use the Peppol network. The Peppol network is based on a four-corner model, where what we standardize is the interoperability between the service providers and how they are sending the business document, the content and choreography and so on around the different business documents. And we also provide the addressing mechanism. So a recipient is listed in the SMP with its capability to receive certain business documents, And the list of the different SMPs are listed in a centralized registry currently operated by the European Commission, the SML, that points to where further information can be found. So it's a fully automated process where the service provider's access point, knowing the recipient's identity, finds the detailed information, and the transport of the document is managed automatically. Many service providers and many senders of business documents also utilizes the Peppol business interoperability standards and specifications for issuing their invoice, but there is also widespread use of conversion from the service providers. So it can be standardized all the way from the sender in corner 1 to the sender recipient in corner 4, but there the senders and recipients have a choice whether they would like how they would like this to be done, and what support they have in their systems. What we're seeing is an increasingly higher number of ERP and ordering systems, invoice systems, financial systems having support natively for Peppol BIS document types, so that it's the same standard and specification used without conversion throughout from corner 1 all the way through corners 2 and 3 to corner 4. But here there is flexibility in the network. The Peppol message types in production today, most in production and where we have the volumes is in the post-award process, and its invoice credit note is the highest one, but there is also different ordering capabilities, dispatch advices, and receipt messages, also handling of catalogs and punch out, where you can utilize the web shop of your supplier. In the pre-award process, there are some public sector requirements, and there are the EU directives that points to a European single procurement document. This is supported, and there is also some support to other steps in the process of entering into a contract. What we are working on and having in test environments for the time being is continuous transaction controls. So this is a use of e-invoicing data, basically, also to provide tax administrations with information on VAT positions and the content in real time or close to real time, opposed to periodic reports from accounting systems to the tax administrations. This is the latest community in the Peppol in OpenPeppol, and we are setting up for piloting this autumn, and France is one country covered by this. But in development, we have been working, and we have. I mentioned we had Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and we also have some activity in the US. And we have set up an international invoice to handle the different VAT regimes in these different jurisdictions. Logistics is a new domain, and one of the drivers for this is energy sector, Norwegian offshore, which Tormod will come back to, and also construction industry in Sweden, and we have other interested parties also in this. As a national domain, we have working on payment instructions, also payment messages going from financial systems to banks. And we have also support in the governance setup for handling national domains like e-government, where the Peppol network can be used for this. So going a bit further into logistics, this is a collaboration between Swedish construction industry, Offshore Norway, and OpenPeppol. And we are looking at possibility to establish Peppol message specifications for logistics applicable to all industry sectors, and to establish then like we have established continuous transaction controls as breathing that as a service domain. We are planning to do the same for logistics. So this will be a cross-sector community open then to OpenPeppol members that can then focus on the development and maintenance of these different specifications. There is in scope for current development, dispatch advice, advanced dispatch advice, receipts, weight statements, waybills. And we had a kickoff just before summer, and activities planned for this autumn. And if I were to summarize why Peppol should be considered as a relevant vehicle for handling business transactions, is its open four-corner model, which gives low barriers to entry for service providers and end users. We are enabling an open market of service providers, providing choice without lock-in to a specific service or service provider. There is also, of course, the actual cost you pay for your services is dependent on the service offering of your provider, but the Peppol network does not require or actually says that there are not to be any roaming charges between the service providers. So once you are connected to the network, the actual use of the network is for free. We facilitate interoperability within and between national jurisdictions. We support wider business document exchange, and now logistics is on that development plan, and where we have also some concrete activities set in motion, and continuous transaction controls is another domain where we are developing. So what we do is we provide a shared language to do business in, and there is no, when you set up and link to the Peppol network, there's no requirement for end-to-end testing, no need to maintain multiple systems and formats, and when you are connected to the Peppol network once, you can reach everyone that have a receive capability registered in the Peppol network. I think that was my the 20 minutes or so, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I'm being aware that this was perhaps a lot of information in short time. I'm happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, André. That was fascinating, and as a complete newcomer to Peppol, very eye-opening in terms of the scale of the standard, the scale of use of the standard, and clearly some of the potential that exists within the offshore energies industries as to how it might come forwards. If those on the call have questions, you're very welcome to put them in the chat, or just put your hand up and ask them interactively. My own thoughts on this was, first of all, in terms of, and I noticed there's a case study on your website that says that Equinor in Norway has been using the Peppol standard for invoicing invoice processing for some time. I think Equinor, they process about 600,000 invoices a year, of which 80% or so go through the Peppol standard. That suggests a lot of companies, small and large, in the Equinor supply chain have had to make some changes in order to be able to send invoices using the Peppol standards and the Peppol network. Can you share your thoughts as to what is the easiest way for smaller companies to be able to work with invoices using Peppol? Do they need to buy systems like Ariba or Sage, the standard accountancy packages? What's the standard route in for small, medium-sized enterprises to become contributors to the Peppol network?
Well, they can, in the Norwegian market where Equinor started out with this, they saw that a huge number of their suppliers already had the capability to receive and to send then Peppol messages. What they had done is that the Norwegian government was an early adopter of Peppol, and there has been a requirement if you are to invoice the public sector that you need to do this Peppol through Peppol. And as part of that process, there have been efforts to on awareness to service providers, software and service providers on Peppol enabling their products. Equinor actually didn't have to do that much. They came to an audience where were Peppol aware, and that could facilitate the requirement they were then putting on their suppliers to deliver now business documents through Peppol. But of course, they also engaged with industry specific suppliers, and the recommendation to them was to speak with their service providers and either set up a conversion service between whatever format these systems were able to produce and Peppol, or for them to offer Peppol as a native format for issuing invoices and for receiving orders. And so the efforts, and Equinor have some rather nice slides on this in terms of how many suppliers they have been able to connect through Peppol versus how many they were able to connect and collaborate with digitally on bilateral setups and through platforms where I think Equinor was using Habu for a while at least. There they had, after many years of efforts, like 150 suppliers, and in Peppol after a couple of years they had were closing in on 4,000 suppliers. So it has a very different approach, and the cost for getting those 4,000 suppliers were far less than getting the 100 and 150 through traditional platforms.
Mm. So thank you. So it sounds like the conditions are generally there in the market. It's just a matter of encouraging that movement towards Peppol as a standard way of transacting this information. That's really interesting. The second question, if I may, I'm certainly aware of the difficulties of running a secure network of this kind in terms of avoiding the various forms of fraud and other issues that can occur when invoices are transmitted electronically. Do you have any insights into the benefits of using Peppol to reduce the various forms of fraud, whether it's invoice fraud, payment details being changed incorrectly? Does Peppol help with that kind of dealing with that kind of cost of business also?
Well, Peppol network is between the service providers, the access points in the networks, the corner 2 and 3 in the 4-corner model I illustrated. That's a secure transaction. On the service provider have strong requirements to know their customers, so they know who they have signed up as customers that can issue invoices, and at the same side on the recipient side. So there is a trust infrastructure. But what we also see, and so the change of data in the transmission process, that's very well protected. But what we see is that companies still need to have routines for who they are paying, because they could get wrong invoices or invoices sent by mistake, but they could also get invoices from legitimate senders that they are not supposed to pay, and it can even be fraudulent. So they still need to have content checks, but if any fraud is detected, we have then the means to shut down the sender and to revoke certificates and access for the service provider they are sending their messages through. So security is increased and it's taken care of, but the security in the network does not replace the requirement for the individual recipients to have controls on who they allow invoices to come from and then pay what they are paying. That is still a company responsibility, but you avoid all use of emails. You can't use the Peppol network for sending spam. There is no spam filter, so you avoid a lot of the problems that could arise in different ways of transmitting electronic business documents.
So perhaps not the magic wand for dealing with fraud and procurement. That would be a really tough ask, I think, but certainly helpful in terms of trust, identity management, and dealing with some of the issues that are out there. Again, sounds like a really useful step forwards. So with that, I don't think there are any other questions out there. So perhaps, André, can I say thank you very much for the introduction to the Peppol standard and the network and systems. Can I, before I go on, I saw Jill, your hand went up. Do you want to dive in very quickly? Can you?
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Jill. Go for it.
Thank you. I was wondering what happens when you cross over different legal requirements, because, obviously in the UK or in Germany or in Norway, the actual governing bodies like HMRC have certain rules and regulations, and the company is fully responsible for adhering to all those rules and regulations. Now, if one adopted a third-party system such as yours and something did occur, where's the onus of responsibility?
Well, the Peppol network is not a service provider in itself. So the first line of responsibility is with your service provider, the ones you have a contract with that sends the invoices or other type of business documents through the Peppol network. The Peppol network regulates responsibilities between these service providers, but your first line of responsibility would be with your service provider. And if you are then to meet the requirements of the Norwegian, your Norwegian recipient of an invoice, they are the ones that can tell you what this entails. And since I know the Norwegian market quite well, the difference between a Peppol standard invoice and what is required in Norway to meet the Norwegian requirements is the cardinality of two information elements, I think. So it's the same invoice. So it will not be a substantial setup for handling that. But of course, other countries, and especially if dealing outside the European, outside Europe, and in different VAT regimes like with Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and so on, then the setup is a bit more requiring, but not very much there either, actually, because they have also adopted the invoice standard completely, but with the exception of the VAT, which is then different, of course, since the regulatory framework is different.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, André. I think with that, we need to hand over now to Tormod from Offshore Norway to take us through some of the thinking about how Peppol can move forwards within the offshore energy sector. Tormod, over to you.
Thank you. So my name is Tormod Tønnesen. I work as a team lead for the supply chain management team within Offshore Norge, meaning that we work on behalf of the operators where they are cooperating for services or projects that affects the supplier industry. So I hope you now can see my screen, so I will proceed. Offshore Norge is a professional body and employers association for companies within the Norwegian continental shelf industries of hydrogen, carbon capture, offshore wind, oil and gas, and seabed minerals. But we also do collaboration projects and services on behalf of our members. So this is where I will use my time today. So we share the activities within supply chain management into more or less 3 areas. One area is where we support services or projects that affects the procurement, the contract and procurement side, here illustrated by a service Magnet JQS, which is a supplier qualification tool and also a guideline for standardized supply chain behavior to improve the value chain in the supply chain on behalf of the supplier industry, contractors, and then the operators at the end. We also work within warehouse and material management, here represented by EQ Hub, which is a service to collect documentation on standard equipment on behalf of the suppliers or producers of equipment, and also a virtual inventory where the operators are sharing their inventory status with each other and some services connected to that in addition. And the last area is then the logistics area, and it might be odd to look at Peppol from the logistics perspective, but this is how we got into the Peppol dialogue on behalf of the operators. So just to go dig into why we are looking at it is that if this picture is meant to illustrate that it is a complex area of companies in a value chain to serve the offshore installations, the offshore wind, etc. So what you can see in this mid part of the window is a lot of suppliers and contractors. So they buy products and services from each other, and they also put them together to sell them, continue to sell them at the end to the operator running an offshore installation. And we also have multiple kinds of transport, multiple transport companies, multiple CCUs or container providers, and also multiple supply bases or harbors to support the industry on the sea, on the shelf. So we have a kind of a different view on transport visibility, where we have a many-to-many communication, because no one of the suppliers or the contractors or the operators are running the transport themselves. And we also might have several transport companies in a chain after each other. So it's not good enough for DHL to know that they have control and can share tracking information. As long as they have control of the equipment, we need to have control across companies. So just to try to illustrate the complexity is that we have a lot of messages that needs to move between the players in the supply chain. And some of these red boxes have names that we will see again on the next few slides, but it is a lot of many-to-many communication, and not only supplier to customer. So for years, we have within Norwegian, or no, Offshore Norway. No, we just recently changed our name, so sorry if I say something else than Offshore Norway. We've had a tracking service where we were supposed to track equipment on the move from supplier via transport terminals, via shore bases to the offshore installations, across companies, across suppliers, across transport companies, etc. But it was a Norwegian continental shelf proprietary solution where the information carrier was the offshore container. And we have a lot of equipment going to and from the offshore installations, which is not in an offshore container. We have special equipment that can be lifted onto the vessel alone. We have a lot of bulk products like cement, water, oil-based chemicals, etc. And we need to have a visibility on all transport issues. So after especially Equinor entered into the invoicing part of Peppol, and looking at how easy it was for new operators to implement the same kind of use of the Peppol messages, for instance, for invoicing, and since the supplier is already on, starting with receiving invoices through the Peppol network was easy, and the percentage of the number of invoices grew very rapidly for new members to the infrastructure. So we started to look at what more can we use this kind of standard formats in a standard infrastructure too. And a few years back, we were planning to create a PO hub to share POs from operator to suppliers. We don't need to do that because it's a part of Peppol. So we are having a shift in mindset on how we work on behalf of the operators, that we go away from a proprietary NCS service of sharing tracking information and looking how can we utilize what is already there, governed by the authorities in the different countries, already in use by different industries, etc. And that is already in use for parts of the purchase to pay process within the operators. So what just recently happened inside the Peppol format structure is that we had an advanced dispatch advice. So this is already in place. We are working on adding a few bits and pieces to the format for future use, because we might need a bit more information than is already in there. But we also, as André just told us, establishing a logistics domain within the Peppol community, so that we can focus on Peppol logistics messages going forward. So this shows you a standard value chain from a supplier to the left via a shore base that lifts equipment onto a vessel that is transported offshore. And this advanced dispatch advice more or less goes from the supplier to the operator. Or if when you return materials, it will be the other way around. But we might need a new set of information between the different layers in the value chain, meaning that we need to have some visibility of the transport execution plans, the transport status created from different companies, but all sent to the receiver of the goods at the final destination. So this example is the messages needed where the buyer or the customer is responsible for the transport execution plan, where the transport company works on behalf of the customer. And we are also looking into how can we change this picture if it is the supplier that is responsible for the transportation. So this picture shows a few different lines or arrows just to show you that we have different perspectives of who decides what, who orders what kind of service, etc. But what is needed in all of these pictures are visibility to other members of the value chain than the seller and the buyer. The shore-based companies are independent companies working on behalf of several companies, and to be able to optimize the logistics on a shore base and optimize loading and unloading of vessels at the quayside, they need to have visibility of what is coming, not only what has arrived. And that counts for all parts of the value chain. The supplier industry within the offshore energy industry is also used to rental equipment, meaning that most of the equipment going out for a drilling campaign is actually rental equipment that is supposed to be returned. And for years, or maybe decades, the rental equipment, as long as it's shipped to customer, it's in a black box, and the supplier doesn't know when it is expected to come back until it's all of a sudden on the quayside and it goes off hire because you're notified that it's now on land again. So this is a tool using this kind of formats and this kind of infrastructure to share information about logistics both ways, both for the operator to have control of what is coming offshore for the operations to avoid downtime, both in drilling and production, but also for the supplier industry to have more visibility of when is the equipment returning back, which again can lead to less investment in equipment because there is a transparency in when to expect it back and you can reuse it for a new job. So I think that on behalf of the operators on the NCS, we have found an area where we can utilize a common setup, a common set of formats in a common infrastructure to share information in a non-proprietary way for the industry that gains the industry. So this is more or less what I was planning to share. I think it's the right way, and I think the speed of what works within the Peppol environment is high, and the ability to improve or engage in having it kind of your way is also good as long as you're engaged in the projects. So I think that this is absolutely good for the future for us.
Thank you very much, Tormod. That's fascinating in terms of the direction to be taken and the opportunity to take an existing well-deployed international standard and then start to see how you can add value to other parts of the process that's out there as well. Can I ask, and please do, if everybody wants to put their hand up or put questions in the chat, please do go ahead and do that. But can I ask, Tormod, in terms of the messages that need to be sent with regard to logistics, is there a standard already set in terms of? It feels like this is a business process that has been well developed over decades and centuries in terms of companies moving equipment around. Is there a standard set of messages that you would build on in terms of then adapting that for the Peppol system, or is this something that needs to be built afresh?
I think the examples on the screen right now is defined, so it's about to be kind of anchored into the Peppol community that these will be needed And our collaboration with the Swedish building industry is that they have one set of requirements, we have another set of requirements, but they're not ruling out each other, so to speak. So they're adding on functionality and not limiting it. But looking at the last 30 years of logistics within oil and gas, it has been kind of a primitive transport management, meaning that the cost impact of not having the equipment there when you need it has been so high that it has always been there far before you need it. So there has not been any kind of just-in-time thinking in this area. Have been planning with duplicated equipment all over the place, gold-plated logistics and storage, and so on. But we were moving into a new world. We can't do that anymore. And evaluating the industry's transport philosophy that has been so oil and gas special for decades, it's not. We see that other industries has exactly the same kind of criticality when it comes to transport and transparency on estimated times of arrivals and accuracy in delivery times, etc. So I don't think we're any more special than anyone else, and I think we can use the same kind of standard format, standard tools, standard planning horizons that's everyone else.
No, that's really interesting. You mentioned, and André also mentioned that the Swedish construction industry was involved in this as well. Can you share anything as to why that particular organisation has emerged as a partner for this piece of work? Are they in the same situation as offshore energy? What are the synergies between the two groups?
The synergy, I think, is that they would like to do something about the standards and the standard formats in the same way as we do. They just started a few months before us. So it is actually Peppol that brought us together, since we have similar needs, not exactly the same needs, but similar, and building over or building out needs, not eliminating each other's needs.
If I might add to that, it's correct that the Swedish construction industry started off in this project that is brought together then with Offshore Norge just a few months ago, but they have been working on proprietarian formats and their own developments for a decade, more or less, and they have wanted to use the Peppol network just to transport their proprietarian formats, and we have been challenging them through this period, and we have allowed them to transport these messages. We have set it up so that's possible to transport. The abbreviation of the Swedish construction industry is building and construction. It's called BEAST. So abbreviation doesn't fit very well in English, but it's a Swedish. It sounds better in Swedish. So BEAST formats has been possible to transact in the Peppol network, but some years ago we challenged them to look into if they really needed something that was homegrown, or if they could use the UBL, Universal Business Language, which is the underlying technical syntax, the format, the technical format we are profiling and utilizing in the Peppol network. And they did a serious job on this and came up with a new generation of messages that are UBL based, and that's the starting point for this collaboration. So they have had a quite a long process for realizing that they perhaps are not so special after all, and that the requirements are generic. So and when they came to Peppol then to get acknowledgement for a possibility to start using these messages, at the same time we had this interest and dialogue with Offshore Norway and also some other stakeholders. So we challenged them to work together and to within the framework of the Peppol interoperability approach to join forces and to work together, and that is what is now becoming Peppol logistics. So they are both then approaching this from with their sector requirements, but with the aim to be come up with non-sector specific solutions. So I think it works for the greater good. Absolutely.
No, indeed. Thinking about the comment that Tormod made around the need for perhaps not just in time, but perhaps slightly closer to the time logistics within the offshore energy sector. There's certainly aware of fairly extensive supply chain collaborations in the European automotive industry, in the aviation industry, and I think in the rail industry as well, which I think again have been looking at this question from a proprietary basis for again quite some years. Are there opportunities to take Peppol into those sectors as well, do you think, or is it more learning from perhaps those other sectors as well, and them contributing into what will then be a truly open standard and open approach for how these messages are defined and how they move around?
If I can answer that, we are in dialogue, and we have received interest from automotive industry specifically, and we will be addressing them. I think they're having a meeting in London less than a month from now, where OpenPeppol will be represented. And I think many of these traditional these industries, they were early adapters of EDI, and they need now to move forward because they need flexibility and need to upgrade basically, and also for a number of reasons. So they are in search for new ways of collaborating, and we see that the Peppol approach has attracts interest really. So it's start of what hopefully will be a ongoing dialogue for years to come, but I think what Peppol, because of our background, the Peppol project was an abbreviation for Pan-European Public Procurement Online. So, public procurement, and we have now, we shifted 3 years ago, we shifted our name, so it's just Peppol, no abbreviation anymore. And we have become a global organization, and we are approaching also private and business-to-business industry segments as well. But we have a job to do to tell the story and to show that this works business to business and for other process segments, and the collaboration there with Equinor and Offshore Norway has been really good showcase for showing that relevancy outside where we originated from.
I think it's certainly the case that although there's the strong benefits of using the old EDI standards, if you were an early adopter of them, they're perhaps somewhat archaic in some of their formats and somewhat less flexible perhaps than Peppol may offer. So there's an opportunity here then to land on a modern solution without some of the baggage, perhaps, that the original EDI systems might bring with them.
And we are also looking into, because some of these solutions here, there is a lot of hype around blockchain, and we are looking into continuously into ways of coming up with business cases that we can support the business case with use also of those kind of technologies without reconstructing everything we have done on a new platform just to do it. It needs to bring some business benefits, and we are like Tormod was mentioning that the status reports on and that these are things that could be where distributed ledger technology could blockchain could have a role. So looking into that is also on the agenda. But we are moving this forward on a message-based platform for the time being, but are open for use of other technologies as well. And we see that our governance approach and everything around the actual technology of exchanging information is then becomes more important, and is important also with use of technology like blockchain.
It would be exciting to find a valid use of blockchain in here. That's something that many have struggled with in terms of where that technology can actually contribute. But who knows? This may be it. I haven't seen any questions come in from the chat. I don't see any hands up. So a final question from myself, if I may. Do you have a sense of a timeline for what may happen next, and by when a set of logistics messages might be trialed within the offshore Norwegian continental shelf?
As soon as possible is, I think, my answer is. So we are working on it this week and next week to be able to be ready when the Peppol regime will let us try.
And this from the construction industry, they came up with already ready-made suggestions, and there has been work going on in Equinor and between other parties based on UBL, and so it's not that we are announcing now that we start on a greenfield. This is more about running the last few meters and set a goal, put the ball into the goal. So it's we hope that a lot will be in place this autumn, and that we will be able to move forward to production and set up the community within a year or something like that. But it depends on the parties, and also. But from what we see now, I'm optimistic that we will have a rather short timeline rather than a long one.
Yeah, and the formats are tested. We are testing it outside the Peppol infrastructure with Equinor.
That is really exciting. So weeks and months rather than months and years in terms of getting to the value and to be able to move to deployment. So that is truly exciting. So with that, though, I think we have come to the end of the time we have available for our session. So I think it falls to me to say thank you very much to André and to Tormod for what's been a fascinating process and journey through Peppol, and lots of insights into where the standards and the technology might move, the offshore energy industry in all its forms forward, because clearly there's an awful lot we can do there in terms of being far more efficient and informed in terms of how these processes work. So thank you both very much for giving us your time and your expertise for that. This call has this webinar has been recorded, so we'll get the recording onto YouTube very shortly, so that those who weren't able to make it will be able to benefit from this as well. But otherwise, I'd like to thank everybody for taking part in this webinar in the SPDM 2022 webinar series. So do join the Society's Slack channel if you like to continue the conversation. But otherwise, thank you very much for being here today, and we do hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much indeed. Bye.